Hello, this is the TradeSite US Stocks and Futures Market Preview for Thursday the 11th and Friday the 12th of October 2018. Hope you had a good trading day. It was a massive day for us here at TradeSite. Had a couple of them the last 2 weeks, but this was a good one on the short side. Got a lot of big calls that worked. By the way, next week is already options expiration for October. Infamously, most of the biggest stock market crashes occur on that options expiration, either that Friday or the Monday after. So we've got maybe a week. We've got 7 trading days ahead of us till we get there. And if this keeps up, it's going to look ugly. There's a lot of room for the downside, obviously. We'll talk about what some of that means in a minute. Let's just start by looking at the indices and then the intra-week action. So here's the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart of the broad market futures form. Big day down, giving away most of the year at this point in time. I should point out that where we closed 2680 or so is where we closed last year. So we're only up 100 points on the S&P for the year. And we were down quite a bit, so almost that much today. So another day like that, and we've given up the whole year again. Let's go through everything else. Crude oil down 48 cents to 72.69, which is interesting as this horrible hurricane, which picked up out of the blue, it came from nowhere with very little notice, hitting Florida, just pounding it relentlessly. Gold up $3.90. That's a blip, hasn't gone anywhere in months. The S&P cash loses 94.66 points. Again, the lowest close since the summer, since July. NASDAQ 100 down 327.12 points. And that is also the lowest close since July and very near the lows of July. We break that and we get into some lower territory. SOX down 58.05. That's almost near the low of the year. And by the way, it's now down since January 1st. So the semiconductors have lost money for the year. Biotech's down 124.05. Also down, also just barely up about 100 points now for the year, which is not a lot on that index when you lose 124 in a day. So another day like today, tomorrow, and that whole year is wasted and gone as well. Russell 2000 down 46.45. That puts it within 20 points or so of where it started out the year. The VIX up 7.01. Big move up in the VIX. The trend closes at 1.45. That puts the 10-day at 0.87. Again, I'm just going to say the thing to remember is that we got that 10-day moving average under the 0.85 level for 3 or 4 days last or 2 weeks ago. That is your broad market sell signal, and that was the high. So that's a very important number. If you've never heard about it before, learn. 3 billion shares on the NASDAQ for this session, just over it. It's a good volume. Obviously on the sell-off. An advanced decline ratio. This is where the problems come in. You don't just turn around usually and bounce off of stuff like this. Big volume down, negative. The advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ, negative 2254. That's the biggest advanced decline loss of the year. On the New York, negative 2320, almost the worst of the year. Again, that's just a lot of stocks down. Let's talk about the big stocks here. And this is what's interesting. We commented on this. A lot of times when you get into November, if the big stocks are up for the year, they don't really come back because nobody wants to sell them. Nobody wants to lock in their tax gains. And most of the money in the market, as we know, is in a handful of stocks. So we look at those stocks every day for a reason. Well, here's the deal. Google loses 53.01 today, taking it almost not even up for the year, but it really wasn't even up coming into this. So again, not a stock where people would have been saying, oh, I'm up too much for the year, I don't want to sell and lock in the tax gain. Apple, yeah, it's up for the year, but nothing like it has been in past years. Currently up 60 points on 100 and came into the year around 170 something. So, again, up 20% for the year. That's not the type of year Apple's put in the past that would make people go, oh, I don't want to sell this. And look at if it breaks the lows of the last 2 months, that's going to be ugly. Netflix down 30 points on the session, and again, it's up for the year. It's actually up decent from about 190 to here at 300. So this is one of the ones that is up almost a double, but still not a ton. Not enough maybe. And if it breaks the lows of the last 6 months, which it's getting close to, that's not going to help. And Amazon, obviously this one did have a good year, starting off at an equivalent at 1,200 and getting to 2,000. But again, this one's selling off down 115 points. Looks like a Dow Jones index, down 115 points on the session on Wednesday there. Tesla down 592. This one is down at basically lows of the year and negative since January 1st. Nothing good about that, and this is one of the big stocks in the market. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, down 31 cents. A couple more that we like to look at. Goldman Sachs down 802. We made some good money on that today, and that's new lows for the year. And it's been down since January. This thing was only up for a very small amount of the year. Facebook down 652, also down since January. Also not looking great. So, we talk about the big stocks being such a big factor in the market, but they're not up for the year at this point. And they're going to carry things lower just like they carried things higher. And there's not a lot of reason to say, oh, nobody's going to sell these things based on where they're at now. Here's the ES 5-minute charts. So we gapped down a little, pushed lower, flat over lunch, sold off more, closed at the lows of the day. Not pretty. NASDAQ side, pretty much about the same thing. There's been rumors for weeks now that Christmas season is not going to be good from a retail perspective. Housing market's slowing. We know there's issues with the auto loans and stuff like that. So signs of economic trouble ahead, and markets will lead that. So before any of that real data comes out that just shows the slowdown in the economy, the market will typically lead that. And this is the time of year when it often happens. So, again, we're not here to catch falling safes. You make a lot of money staying short in this environment. We don't just try to buy bounces. You spend a lot of time doing that, and you'll just get beat up. We are here to make money, and we'll do it on the short side because we've been looking for this. And there's no way this is the bottom, by the way. This is not even close. The VIX readings are not high enough. We're only one huge day down. We're only small. Until today, we were only barely off the highs from that trend reading. This is not typically the bottom at all, and some of these stocks look like they're in some big trouble. So, again, be very careful. But again, this, as usual, we don't typically do market previews for Friday. We might do one tomorrow if tomorrow's. I mean, we haven't done tomorrow night for Friday if the market falls apart more on Thursday, and there's something new to talk about. Otherwise, let's cover the data that's coming out for the rest of the week. We've got the CPI and the weekly initial and continuing jobless claims numbers. Remember, jobless claims numbers don't lead the economy, so they can look strong, but that doesn't mean anything about where we're going to be out in 9 months. The stock market leads, and there's a lot of other signals that come ahead of that. So we've got those numbers an hour before the bell. Natty gas an hour in. Crude oil inventories 90 minutes into the market. 30-year bond auction at 1 p.m. And then on Friday, import-export prices an hour before the bell. Preliminary University of Michigan sentiment for October 30 minutes into the market. We've got federal budget balance at some point in the day. Several Fed members speaking. And then we have IMF meetings over the weekend. Still got a couple weeks left until the time change here in the U.S., but it is what it is. So let's see how the rest of the week goes for us. Hopefully just as good as Thursday or as Wednesday was. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading Thursday and